Hello, this is Joseph Pupolo with TechCrunch. We're here today interviewing Dana White and some of the fighters for UFC 140 in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. This is Joseph Pupolo from TechCrunch. I'm here interviewing Dana White for UFC 140, a big event going on in Toronto, Canada. Dana, how you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm pretty well. I wanted to ask you specifically about your social media presence. You're always on Twitter. I catch you no matter what time it is in the day or night, tweeting. Talk to me a little bit about how you got on Twitter and why you're on it.
Well, it all started when Twitter first came out. It was actually when I watched the battle with Ashton Kutcher versus CNN, when that whole thing happened, and I kind of became, interested in Twitter and the possibilities of Twitter. And one of the things, I've had this love-hate relationship with the media for a lot of years, and what I love about Twitter is how I can talk directly to the fans. And it's one of those things where you don't trick anybody into, like back in the old days where you'd say, if you fill out all this information and give us your email address, you can, get into all these secret sites and all this other. People opt in to follow you on Twitter. People that want to follow you. So I fell in love with Twitter immediately.
Fair enough. As a CEO, sort of getting out there in front of your brand, what would you recommend to other CEOs, or maybe a little less hesitant about getting on Twitter and really using it to drive their brand, drive your presence?
Yeah, I speak a lot at a lot of things, from colleges to business events and whatever it is, and I always pump up Twitter and tell anybody who's involved in business, if you are not on Twitter, you're crazy, because first of all, I think it's the greatest marketing tool in the history of the world, and it's free, and it's a way for you to connect with your fans or the people who buy your product or whatever it might be. And another cool thing, not just talking to your fans and all this stuff. For instance, tomorrow night when this fight happens, I'll be on Twitter all night leading up to the fight. Then what happens the night of the fight? Let's say people have a problem with their tickets. Cable goes out, somewhere. There's a whole laundry list of problems that happen that I fix immediately that night as I see them happen. Before social media and before Twitter back in the old days, I wouldn't know this stuff till Monday. And I'd be like, God, we got to make sure this never happens again. But because of Twitter, there's so many things, so many different ways that I can manage my business better with my consumers.
So you say without a doubt it has helped your bottom line? There's
no doubt about it. It's the greatest marketing tool in the history of the world.
Good to know. Other question I had for you is, obviously all your fighters are branded with Twitter handles. It's part of their walkout and their the graphics there. Obviously, there's sort of a responsibility in the fighters using it responsibly, and there's been a lot of things, especially lately. Forrest, Miguel. What is your sort of thoughts on that, and how do you manage that effectively as a boss?
Well, we've just started managing it effectively within the last couple of days. What happens is that I'm one of these guys who believes in being real. You should be able to, if people come on Twitter and say dumb stuff to you, you say dumb stuff back to them, just like in the real world. But there is a line that you can cross, and things that should not be tweeted. For instance, even if it's a joke or it's just, if you can't explain yourself, which you cannot explain yourself on Twitter. There's only so many characters, and there's some things that you have to have enough common sense not to tweet and not to say. You're never gonna make everybody happy. There was some guy on Twitter who actually, it was weird because this happened the last couple days. This weird guy was on Twitter, and it seemed like he was baiting me. You know, and I'm a guy who will take the bait. I love getting into these back and forth with wise guys that come on Twitter. It's fun. I'll sit and go back and forth with these guys. Seemed like this guy was baiting me. You know, nobody could be this weird as this guy was. And sure enough, today, as he and I were going back, he wrote this thing. He had a story written in one of the local newspapers that I was bullying him on Twitter. You know, so you're going to run into weirdos and freaks and all kinds of different people on Twitter. But for all the negatives, there's more positives than there are negative.
Speaking about being responsible on Twitter, is there anything you wish you could take back?
Nope. No, there's not. You know, if there was, I probably wouldn't have tweeted it.
Fair enough. Well, this is Joseph Pupolo with Dana White, and hearing his thoughts on Twitter. Thank you very much, Dana.
Thank you. Pleasure, brother.
Appreciate it.